Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. The Franklin County Community Development Corporation. Growing sustainable businesses and communities since 1979. www.fccdc.org. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. Helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
There's a better life if I could be debt-free, but oh, my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.
Hello and welcome to the Money Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Frances Rayam, president of Power Down Debt, a positive debt management company. And my guest today is George Miller Sr. from Magic Wings Butterfly Conservatory in South Deerfield, Mass. Welcome, George. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. We zipped you in and zipped you out today because you have things to do, and I know it's really busy over there. We should start off by saying Magic Wings is a butterfly conservatory with about 4,000 at last count live butterflies, I think.
That's about the population we try to keep all year long, about 4,000.
Incredible. And it's this tropical ecosystem in South Deerfield, Massachusetts.
Yeah, they said it couldn't be done, but we did it. Yeah, it's a challenge at all times to keep the system where you need to keep it, which is approximately 80 Fahrenheit and 80% humidity.
Wow.
So that's our ideal setup. We cannot let it go below about 66 degrees in the nighttime.
Wow.
Okay, because the butterflies are asleep, so they're dormant, so they can be a little bit cooler. But in fact, when I left there this morning at 10 o'clock, it was already 74 degrees in there. So yesterday we vented.
I can't imagine how you're fighting the elements all the time.
Yeah, it's a job to stay on top of it. So.
And you're trying to leave as small a footprint as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, so. In fact, we're negotiating now to do some different alternative energies, and hopefully it'll come to fruition. There's a system down at Mount Wachusett College, and that is Uncle Sam spent a lot of money getting systems up that would run off of the flue products of smoke or whatever flue products come off of combustion things that we're using now.
Sure.
And they got it to work, and then as usual government projects, after they get them working, they walk away from them.
It's time for the next one.
Yeah, so it's sitting there. So
wow.
I'm negotiating to see if we can get it moved out of there and bring it down to Magic Wings, and that will produce between 40 and 60% of our electrical needs. So we'll see how that works.
Impressive.
Yes.
And you burn wood chips instead of oil?
We burn wood chips, we burn oil, and we have gas. So we have all three on the premise. So we have the option of going who's the cheapest, okay, at the time. So that's the way that we've been playing it.
Wow.
So, but our oil usage is down considerably. 50%, I would imagine, by the end of this heating season. So that's
great.
That's not bad.
And a perfect fit for somebody who's running this, oasis, this ecosystem.
Correct.
In South Deerfield, Mass. To be, it fits.
Yeah, it fits.
So let me ask you about that, if I may. How does, if you'll pardon the expression, a tough guy from Brooklyn, a tough guy from Brooklyn, a contractor, end up owning a butterfly conservatory? There's got to be the story here.
The story is lengthy, and I don't know if we have enough time, but the thing is that in the beginning, as they say, I was approached to build it, okay?
Right. You were a contractor, right?
Correct.
Yep.
And there were a group of investors, let's call them, to stay politically correct, We met in February. In fact, 14 years ago, we met in February at the site of the former Candlelight restaurant.
Right.
That was the property that was of interest. Proximity to Yankee Candle,
Sure.
et cetera. So there were 9 of them and me. And they showed me some things. They had one or two of them had visited different establishments around the country, and had some idea of what they were interested in doing. So we met, and they wanted me to put together some numbers of what it would cost to build this thing.
Sure.
So I did that, and we met probably 2 weeks later, and I brought my numbers, and I noticed that there were no longer 9. There were 8.
Oh, dear.
So we looked at it, and well, by the time we got the numbers out on the table, we had to practice CPR.
Right, the math had a way.
Yeah, most of them had a heart attack.
A way of
anyway,
scaring them.
they before we even got to buying of the property, there were 3 left, with me now being a 4th way.
Wow.
Okay.
So they didn't own the property at this point, but they had the idea to build this
had the idea
conservatory.
to build this thing, yes.
Wow.
And one of them had just gotten back recently from the one in Colorado. There's
Yeah,
one between
in
Boulder
Denver or
and Denver.
someplace, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And had looked at that one, and had the idea, but had
Right.
No way of knowing how to put it together. So that's where
Sure.
I came in. But anyway. When we went to closing, which was in July of '99, we're sitting in the office, 3 of us in the lawyer's office, waiting for the one guy to show up with his end of the deal. Well, he forgot to show up.
He forgot to show up. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so luckily, the lawyer's office was right close by to where we are now, and I had some money in the Greenfield Cooperative Bank that was for retirement.
Sure.
So I ran over to the Greenfield Cooperative Bank and took the money out of the bag. If my wife would have known that, she would have forget about it. I mean, that would have been the end of that deal. So I don't know how she's put up with me for 48 years as it is. But
She loves you.
So anyways, we made the deal. And before we even got out of demolition, because there was demolition that had to be done there.
Sure,
there was a house on the property,
Yep.
and there was a bunch of, a bunch of other stuff that had
Sure.
to go. Before we even got out of demolition, we lost another one. So
Oh,
then there
boy.
was 2 of us.
They were dropping like,
Flies. Yeah, even
we can't say they were dropping like butterflies,
No,
but
we can't.
they were they had about the same lifespan as
They
butterflies,
sure
right?
did. So they
Yeah.
were, there were 2 of us, and then in 2004, we had a parting of the ways, and I just bought the other guy out.
So you opened in 1999.
Well, we opened in 2000.
You opened in 2000, okay.
Yes, and the timeline is
4 years later, you're
4 years
you
later.
own
It's Kathy had come to work for us in 2003.
your daughter,
George had come to work for us in 2004.
George Jr., yep, the
Yes,
son.
and so now it's the family operation.
Right.
The boss has always been there, and that's my wife.
Yep.
So,
Well, after you made that decision, she couldn't trust you on your own anymore. She said, I want in, right?
That's right.
Right.
So anyway, we just about every year since we've put something new and different onto the property.
Right.
And in 2004, we added to the conservatory. We doubled the size of the conservatory.
You went from 4,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet.
Correct.
Right, that was an enormous addition.
It was, yeah. And
Is that
then
when you added the greenhouses and things like that too? Or not?
greenhouses were about 1 a year. Okay. In other
Okay.
words, we found the more that we became involved in rearing our own butterflies, the more you have to have to support that.
Right.
So the support system is basically a greenhouse that's given over, a 3,000 square foot greenhouse that's given over basically to caterpillars and feeding the caterpillars.
Sure.
Another 3,000 square foot building is given over basically to the feedstuffs and the replacement plants for the conservatory. Another smaller greenhouse, about 2,000 square feet, is given over to support for native butterflies. Okay.
Yep. So they're not all tropical. There are some that are from our area.
Correct.
Okay.
But you only have the ones from our area
when it's time for them to be here.
That's right, at that time of the year. So
what time of the year is that is it June, July?
Yeah, usually, depending on weather, you could have some butterflies back to the neighborhood as early as May.
Okay.
Early in May.
All right.
If it's cold,
coming up.
well, then you're not going to see them until Memorial Day plus.
Right.
Okay, so, but like I say, now, there are, every year there are more problems with importing and exporting.
Sure.
And since 9/11, it's become more difficult, especially with live organisms. They're very nervous about that.
You know, I have this image in my mind. You have these butterflies from all over the world, and you just mentioned 9/11, and I had this crazy image in my mind of the little butterflies having to get frisked before they could get transferred over here. You know, could we check your shoes?
It doesn't.
You know, how many shoes do they have? 6 shoes, right?
6 shoes,
right.
Yeah. So that would be a lot of checking.
That's a lot of checking. But they can't weigh anything. I mean, freight-wise, it's not about the weight of the butterflies.
No, but what it
it's how
is
difficult.
is the permitting process.
Right,
okay.
right.
In the way back when, if there were like 3 major hubs in the country.
Yep.
New York, Miami, and LAX. And DHL does most of the transporting of live organisms. I mean, not only butterflies, but
Right.
all live organisms. Before 9/11, if you had one government agency stamp off, let's say customs, that was kind of good to go. That was a rubber stamp. Now, it's not good to go. You have all 3 agencies involved, USDA,
Right.
Customs,
Right.
and Fish and Wildlife.
Of course.
So you have to have all the stamps. Just to give you, for instance, the last load that we got, it used to be $25. That was the stamping, permitting process. The last load we got in was $400 and something dollars for the different permits.
Wow,
okay,
amazing.
So, because, like I said, everybody's on board now, okay?
Yep.
So we went to USDA, APHIS, the Lepidoptera section of APHIS, and
Right.
have gotten permitted to raise most of the species that we now have on board.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that saves a lot of grief.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
really big deal,
It
right?
is. It's some species. It's just not. It's too cost prohibitive
Right.
to raise them because you have to have the plants and the care
Sure.
and et cetera, et cetera. So we still import some, and we've cut way down on a number of vendors too, because over the years, some vendors naturally are good, some vendors are not so good.
Sure.
So now we're dealing basically with maybe half a dozen vendors around the world, and out of the Philippines, out of Europe, out of South and Central America.
Wow.
So it's still a big part of the process. You know, in other words, getting all of these different butterflies, and then if they have butterflies which are not permitted, we have a list of I don't know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of butterflies that we're
Sure.
permitted to fly. If they're not on our list, then we have to call and see if it's okay to bring them into our conservatory. And
Not the fun part.
yes, well, plus everything's got to be inspected.
Of course,
If you
of
have
course.
the stuff that comes in, and if you have, I never remember the figure, but it's a very, very small percentage. If you have 5 or 7% of your butterflies are dead or diseased, well, then you have to close the box back up again.
Right.
And you have to bring in, normally it's the local fella from, or person, because the fellow retired. Now we have a lady.
Sure.
But they have to come in and check them
Yep.
and say yes, no, or if they're okay, fine. If they're not okay, well then they have to be dealt with.
Sure.
So.
Well, speaking of small percentages,
Yes.
this is not a big percentage business when you started it, and I want to talk more about it being a family business and get a little background on your son, your daughter, and your wife who are all involved in this.
Sure.
As soon as we come back. So we need to take a little break.
Okay.
You're watching The Money Doctor Show. My guest today is George Miller from Magic Wings Butterfly Conservatory in South Deerfield, Mass. We'll be back in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
Underwriting for The Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. The Franklin County Community Development Corporation. Growing sustainable businesses and communities since 1979. www.fccdc.org. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity, helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
Hello and welcome back to The Money Doctor. I'm chatting today with George Miller Sr. from Magic Wings Conservatory in South Deerfield, Mass. Welcome back, George.
Glad
Thanks.
to be here, chatting with the doctor.
I was wondering there for a moment. While we were on break, you had a quote that you told me about. We were talking about how this isn't a high percentage business, this Magic Wings Conservatory. Who thinks about doing this in South Deerfield, Mass? And the quote was?
Well, it's the entrepreneur's motto, okay? The 10 shortest words, okay, in basically the English language. But the motto is, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Yeah.
So
little words, big meaning.
Yeah, that's right. And that's how most entrepreneurs get started.
Sure.
They have an idea or a vision, or usually no money or
right.
no wherewithal, and start.
Or like you were brought into it from another perspective.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, I don't want to say left holding the bag, but you were faced with a decision to make. Do you pick the ball up and run with it or not?
Correct.
So
yeah, at that stage of the game, it was a couple of years in. It was a very iffy situation. Okay, but once I saw how it was going, how the worm turned, so to speak, then it was.
yes.
Then it became interesting, and.
Yeah.
You have more ideas about how to make it better, how to, expand, get into different areas, etc. And
so
now we've covered most of the areas, I guess, that you can at an attraction.
Well, let's talk about that a little
Okay.
bit. We talk about it being a butterfly conservatory, but one of my favorite things when I go there, and I have to say, I think this is as appealing to adults, if not more so, than children even. I used to go and bring my laptop and sit on one of your benches for a few minutes, and it's just an oasis. It's tropical. It feels great when you walk in the door. It's well laid out. It's peaceful. And it has lots of other animals, which is what I really like. The plants are lush and gorgeous. You feel that warm tropical feel on your skin. And bearded dragon, all kinds of different things. But my favorite were the little button quail.
Yeah.
I loved those button quail.
Chinese button quail.
Oh, they're essentially a round feathered ball with a beak.
And very prolific.
and apparently they're not supposed to be quite that round. You fight, man is upsetting your ecosystem constantly.
Well,
because they're cute.
The design of those, the reason they were brought on board was for critter control. In other words, spiders and smaller bugs and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But the staff has naturally taken them to heart, and so they feed them well.
Yes.
So they're not the lean, mean fighting machines that they should be.
And they don't necessarily want more spiders.
No. That's dessert. So.
Well, it's a good thing they're prolific then.
That's
because
right.
You need them to eat the spiders.
We have a whole adoption program with Chinese button quail.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that.
Yes, we do. We have. Well, you have to get on the list, and when I tell you the list is lengthy,
I bet
list
it
is very long.
They are just adorable.
Well,
yeah.
We sell them as a pair.
Yep.
Sometimes difficult to tell which is the boy and which is the girl,
yes.
but most of the time we work it out.
So that is kind of an interesting part. And then once you get through the whole, the whole what do I want to say? Once you're past the whole nature part, yes.
Yep.
Then we start to think about, there's 2 restaurants essentially. There's a cafeteria with 52 flavors of ice cream, I think.
Well, we have 27
Okay.
actually, if you want to count the twist.
Okay.
And then we have, that's basically cafeteria style,
Right.
the food court. And then we have Monarch's,
And then Monarch's restaurant, right.
which is full sit down. The food is very good, very
Yes.
reasonable.
Consistent.
I have to stay out of there. I'd weigh 500 pounds if I, try this, try that, try that. No, never mind, it's okay. So, Monarch's it's doing okay, but it's, again, it's the economy,
Right.
and
it's an aside from, I mean,
is.
there's a
It is.
convenience. You have bus groups that come in. You're open to larger groups. There's plenty of parking.
Plenty of
So
parking.
it's easy for people to come and arrange that. And you even have, I don't want to call them gypsy moths because they're not, but you even have a traveling set of butterflies. Like you'll bring a show to places if they can't get to you. Tell me about that.
We do that now mainly for the school groups because it's become so prohibitively expensive for them.
Right.
Here's a for instance. Last year we had a school south of Boston. I want to say Quincy, but I'm not 100% sure of that. And it was going to be $2,800 for the buses to bring the kids to us and bring up.
Staggering.
That's absurd, is
Yes.
what that is. But anyway, so now we have our traveling show, and we go to a school. We have a good size cage that we've made up that we also bring to the flower shows and different exhibitions. But it's a lot cheaper and a lot more hands-on, I guess you want to call it. The kids can actually come up and
it's intimate.
we bring some
close,
critters with us. We'll bring some beardards or some whatever. And the kids get a pretty good experience. We try to double it up. In other words, if you got a large school, we'll do 2 classes.
Sure.
We'll get there for like a 10 and maybe a 1.
Yep.
And it's very reasonable, but I mean, it just works better for us economically if we can do 2 classes rather than 1.
Sure.
So.
But it's a great idea to be able to bring that to the school, and that's kind of the heart of your business. I mean, it's a family business. You do quite a bit of charity work and donations and supporting our local community. It can't be quite the same as coming into that environment where the butterflies are. I had no idea what to expect the first time I went there years ago. You think you're going to walk into this place where the butterflies are pinned on boards. These are live butterflies, and they are everywhere.
Yes.
And they're incredible. And maybe one of my favorite things was, I don't know what you call it, but you have these little boards where you have chrysalises on there, and the butterflies actually hatch on them.
That's the nursery.
The nursery.
Yes.
To stand there and watch that happen, you literally watch that butterfly come out of the chrysalis and unfold their little folded wings by pumping blood into them. I thought that was the neatest thing.
Yes.
They're crumpled when they come out.
Well, they're full size inside the chrysalis, but when they come out, they need to do exactly what you say. The bodies are engorged with blood, and they pump the blood out of the body into the wings, and then by hanging the way that they do, gravity also helps to get the blood out to the extremities. And just last week, I had a group. It was a birthday party, and just hit at the right time. We went in and. I just happened to come in through the back door of the conservatory, and there's the kids standing there, and like 5 butterflies were in the process of emerging. So that became very interesting. The kids were like, "Oh wow, look at that!" So.
It's so cool. You see them start to rock and all that.
Up, sure.
Now you said birthday parties, which reminds me that you're available for weddings. You've done a couple hundred weddings, 250 weddings or more.
A lot of weddings, yeah. We do a lot of weddings. We do a lot of. All types of special events.
Sure. Birthday parties,
showers, bridal showers, kid showers, birthday parties, both adult and children. So it's you've got a pretty full venue if you come to Magic Wings.
That's a fun location to be able to have that. And again, the parking is great and all of that. I want to talk briefly about your family because it's a family-owned business. Kathy was joined you in 2003, your daughter. What did she do before she joined you?
Well, she's actually a psychologist, my daughter, which is an interesting part of the family to have. You find out all the things you're doing wrong. So that's good. My son, he's the he's the statistician, okay, as everybody in the Valley knows. He's a whiz. He'll tell you who played second base for the Valley Cats in Hoboken in 47.
And as I discovered this morning, he's been the voice of UMass basketball.
Correct. He's been he was play-by-play guy, and now he's PA guy down at the Mullins, and he just applied for the PA voice at the Red Sox. Unfortunately, they probably got some wonk in there that doesn't know what he's talking about, but it's very political. So, anyway.
Well, it would have been difficult for him, I think, too. He'd have had to change his lifestyle. You're 2 hours from Boston.
What he was going to do was, that's only a part-time gig.
Sure.
So he was going to do that and continue to be with us,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad we kept him, actually.
Yeah, me too.
And we're getting close on time, but there are a couple of things. I wanted to mention your wife and talk about her role here, besides just keeping you in line, and what you do at the Conservatory as well.
Yep.
So give me a little bit of that stuff.
She's mainly involved with kids events. Okay.
Yeah.
She'll be in there. Sunday we're doing a butterfly thing now. We've been approached from folks in Connecticut. About the Sandy Hook thing, we're going to be doing. It's going to be quite a big deal, I guess. Come good weather. So we're involved in that, and she has. She's in the process of working with the kids to do. It's going to be a whole bunch of individualized butterflies that we're going to contribute to this. Plus. Plants and that kind of thing. They want to put in butterfly bushes in remembrance and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So that's basically her deal. She was a librarian, so and she was a kid's librarian.
Wow!
So.
Wow! Perfect fit.
Yeah, perfect fit. So that worked out well.
So in addition to your family here, I mean, it takes a lot of staff to run this. You've got lepidopterists on staff. You've got a couple of biologists on staff.
Yep.
I mean, this is
most of the people that. If they are not degreed in the specifics, they are master gardeners, or you have to know your plants. You have to know your. The lepidopterist is mainly the plants. He will prescribe for what we need for foodstuffs for caterpillars.
Right.
So, and then the rest of the folks take care of that.
Okay.
So.
George Miller, I have to thank you for being here. If folks want to get in touch with you or learn more about the Conservatory, how do they reach you?
Well, we can be reached by phone at 413-665-2805. We're on the internet. Our site is magicwings.com, and our internet email is magicwings.net. Info at magicwings.net.
Terrific, thank you. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this show, you can find it at gctv.org or powerdownedebt.com. Until our next chat, keep it positive.
There's a better life if I could be debt free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.